Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Faith Focus.
Still on the topic, the language of sacrifice. We talked about point 1, the sacrifice of our lives.
To move from one level to another level. And the first point we're going to be looking at is the sacrifice of our life. It's an ongoing thing.
Stay blessed as we explore more on this topic.
And so being a living sacrifice is no longer about taking rams and bulls and lambs to the altar. It's now about myself. I am now the living sacrifice. I'm now the one being offered. So it's now about what I'm doing with my body, how I'm offering that to God, what I'm watching with my eyes, how I'm offering that to God, what I'm thinking with my mind, how I am offering that to God, how I am being a living sacrifice. Some people are so proud in their work. There are some people that serve in church and to them, it's all about their work. It's good to serve in church. It's good to be a member of a fellowship. It's good to offer your service to God. But it's not just about your work. It's possible that you are working, but you're not giving Him yourself. So it's about giving yourself wholly to God. Now, it brings me to my point that the body is a wonderful servant, but a terrible master. What that means is that if you allow your body to master you, to control you, it's not going to end well. When we bring our bodies as a living sacrifice and offer it to God's altar, we are telling our bodies that this is where you are supposed to be. We are exercising authority over our bodies. And so that's one way that it helps us when we present ourselves. We are putting our bodies where it is meant to be. It's not supposed to control us. We are supposed to control our bodies. Now, taking it back to the scripture I read, Romans chapter 12 from verse 1 to 2. What does it mean to be a living sacrifice in a practical sense? You see, if we look at Romans chapter 12 verse 2, and it says, do not be conformed to this world. And that's what it is. We are a living sacrifice when we are not conformed to this world. You see, 1 John chapter 2 verse 15 gives us a summarized description of what this world is about. And I'll read it very quickly. It says, do not love the world or the things in the world. If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. And I'll just go to verse 16 as well. It says, for all that is in the world, the desires of the flesh and the desires of the eyes and the pride of life is not of the Father, but is of the world. Materialism. The lust of the flesh describes anything that appeals to our appetites, everything that stimulates or encourages excessive desire for food, for drink, for sex, for things that appeal to the flesh, appeal to our bodies. That's the lust of the flesh. And then the pride of life, the things that keep us puffed up, the things that make us feel like we are better than the next person, things that we derive our pride from, the things that we like to ascribe our identity to. As a believer, if you are drawing your identity, of the source of your identity is anything outside of Jesus Christ, then you're in idolatry. This is how the world is described, to us, summarized by 3 major points: the lust of the eyes, the lust of the flesh, and the pride of life. And so a life that is a living sacrifice must not be plagued by these things. A life that is an ongoing and constant and daily sacrifice to God must not be entangled in these things. And that's how you end up as what? A living sacrifice that is holy and acceptable. In the times of the Israelites, there were strict standards of the kind of offerings that were brought to God as a sacrifice. It had to be, for example, the firstborn lamb. It must not have any blemish. It must be spotless and all of that. There were strict standards. And the fact that, yes, we're not bringing lamb and ram and all of that, it doesn't mean that standard has reduced. It doesn't mean that standard has been put aside. No, we ourselves, now the living sacrifice, we must attain these standards of holiness, because we must be acceptable. Our sacrifice must be acceptable. Remember, we talked about the fact that we are dealing with a spirit, and the language they understand is sacrifice. But even in those sacrifices, there are strict standards that must be met. And it's the same for a believer. And I say, this has been watered down in the dispensation of grace, that we are. People no longer see the need for holiness. People no longer see the need to be consecrated, to be set apart to their God, to speak the way Job said. He says, I will not sin against God with my eyes, or I will not put anything that defiles my eyes. I'm just paraphrasing. So the standard of holiness is watered down, but that's not how it should be in the life of a believer that is a living sacrifice. We cannot say that we are worshiping the Father that is seated on the throne, but we have put ourselves on the throne of our own lives. No, these things must not be found in the life of a believer. That is what? A living sacrifice. Remember, you are giving your all, your possessions. Giving offerings to God has become bastardized. You see all manner of opinions online, to even bring your tithe to church. Oh, there are people that will say, oh my God, you take it, the pastor will spend it, they are getting richer and richer, you are not And you listen to those things and you don't understand that it's not about the offering. In fact, let me read something very interesting for you from Mark chapter 12, from verse 41. It says, "Now Jesus sat opposite the treasury and saw how people put money into the treasury, and many who were rich, they put in much. But then one poor widow came and threw in 2 mites, that makes a quadrans. And he called his disciples to himself and said to them, Assuredly, I say to you that this poor widow has put in more than all those who have given to the treasury, because they put out of their abundance, but she, out of her poverty, she put in all that she had, her whole livelihood." This is Jesus himself that was speaking. This is not inspired text from the Apostle Paul or the Apostle James. This was Jesus speaking. And I mean, if you think about what Jesus said here, you will know that when people are talking about, bringing your offering to God, you are just foolish. The pastor will spend it. You will know that that is foolishness in and of itself. And you will be able to defend your stand as a believer in Christ.